Curse of Monkey Island. The third in the Monkey Island franchise. Actually, now this was released in 1997, and I didn't get a copy of it until either 2002, 2003. I remember because I'm pretty sure I had met my wife by the time, my late wife. And I got it for the computer, and, when I first started it, I was a bit lost. Because I had no idea how in the world Guybrush was at an amusement park and all that. Or who this guy that, when you start the game, you run across the only human in LeChuck's crew, Wally. Now, so I ended up getting the didn't realize the game came with a second CD because it was a CD-ROM game with the first two games on it. So I ended up playing through the second game, the first and second game again. Well, first game again and the second game, and I never got back to the third game. And of course, didn't play it again until years later when I got off of GOG. And just as a lot of games were maturing and what they could do, they did it with Curse of Monkey Island. They decided to go with a newer route with the newer look. However, it was also at the time that another game came out. And this is something I didn't know at the time. LucasArts, of course, would love to put plugs for other games in each game they make. So, when playing the game, you'll run across, well, I should, no, at some point, you'll run across Manny Calavera from Grim Fandango. That's a Grim Fandango plug. But this game, each chapter is pretty much self-contained. I mean, in the first game, it was again self-contained to the island or the boats. Second game, you could actually travel around between the islands once you could get off the first island. This game, everything is literally self-contained. I mean, you start out as a prisoner on LeChuck's ship, and you end up beating LeChuck in an indirect manner, I should say. To which you get off the ship. While the ship sinks, you're able to collect a bit of treasure, a ring. And Guybrush uses it to, quote, propose to Elaine. And then, of course, your friend that's from the second game, Wally, mentions about a cursed ring, to which Elaine's about to smack Guybrush for. But she gets turned into gold. Then you're literally going through the game, through the first island you end up on. So you have to get a ship together. You have to reclaim Elaine. And you have to, of course, get a crew. I should also note that this game introduces the first time we run into a character named Murray. Murray, the evil demon skull. Actually, Murray's sort of an okay sort. He likes to be evil. He likes to do mean things. I mean, all you gotta do is, negotiate with him. and so forth. He can work, he can help you in your favor. You'll come across him a few times in the game. You'll also come across Voodoo Lady again, only in one part. But as you maneuver through the game, you you basically have to deal with figuring out what you need to do, getting a crew together, a map to an island, getting a ship, and a good portion of this relies on trickery, and of course you have some crazy puns in there. Getting your crew, well, you got a bunch of pirate barbers on the ship, so you're going to have to, convince them all by a bit of trickery and all that of sorts. And this is the first one of the Monkey Island games that had voice actors, and I consider it a plus to find the the one character was voiced by I'm trying to think of his name right now. Because I'm trying to remember who the actor's name. Oh, Alan Young. And Alan Young, who a lot of people will know as Wilbur Post or Scrooge, the original Scrooge McDuck from DuckTales, and he had a voice character on in the game. But as you work your way through the game, like once you get your crew in the ship and reclaim the statue of Elaine, you move on to sailing on the seas, which is a nice combination. Which is a combination of cannon fighting and then sword fighting, which brings back the insult fighting. However, they add a nice little twist to it. You have to rhyme, which is a nice little twist. I mean, I don't think you gain your options until you come across them. And you do this until you can, each time you beat a pirate, you should take your loot back so you can get better cannons. And you build your way up until you finally fight, I think they called him Rottingham. You fight him, defeat him, which allows you to again reclaim Elaine. Then, of course, you end up at Blood Island, which you then have to deal with another bout of quests and all that, and you end up running across a couple figures again. The cannibals from Monkey Island, they now move to this island, and they worship a lactose intolerant volcano god. So it's important to remember that because you're going to have to do something about that later. uh, you then work your way around, and they'd have a clever little bit there. Because once you cure the bartender at the quote hotel on there, who owns the hotel, he is part of the Soup Dynasty or the Stroni Dynasty, or is it a Soup Dynasty? I think it's Soup Dynasty. I might be off on that. Uh, you have to work things out. I mean, they do give the traditional don't drink beer with medication, don't drink alcohol with medication, because it literally makes it appear Guybrush died. And as for doing that, Uh, he's like, well, I thought you couldn't die in a LucasArts game. Well, maybe they're trying something new or something. Because Guybrush has to end up in the grave. He also has to end up in a specific grave. So when he gets out of the coffin, and then he opens another coffin, and he releases the most evil of evil entities out there, Stan. And Stan goes into life insurance selling then. And this is actually one of the few times that you can pull a fast one on Stan. There will be another time later in the series you can pull a quote fast one on Stan. Of course, he can get out of it by doing one thing. I'm not going to tell you what that is because that'll come later. Of course, then you are able to get everything back, get the ring back, again using some more comedy. And the comedy you use, because it has a cartoonish look to it, it does fit with a cartoon. Um, Case in point, Guybrush giving a worker for the one pirate the old, give him a taste of his own medicine when it comes to an elevator. It's funny. Uh, Guybrush is able to free Elaine, and then all of a sudden they're back on Monkey Isle, to which Guybrush now must uncurse himself because he's been turned into a kid, and then he has to, quote, rescue Elaine. And of course, because this is a modern LucasArts game, he narrowly escapes any time. And I mean, it's funny because the one time came across LeChuck, he's like, "Where did that woman go?" He's like, tells Guybrush what she pulled, but all right, I'm gonna get rid of you now. Like I said, the game is full of crazy. It's crazy. It's humorous. You can have conversations with with the with the characters, and they can take such the weirdest turns. I think I spent like a good 5 minutes having the trying to figure out LeChuck's plan, which was funny as all hell too with some of the responses. But it's actually in this one you really learn what the treasure of Big Whoop was, and that was a gateway to hell that would give phenomenal powers to. And he was using this, and LeChuck was using the amusement park as a way to, quote, capture, to gain new recruits. But, it was. This is the only game in which you defeat LeChuck twice. I think that's kind of funny. Because you defeat him right in the first part of the game, and then you defeat him again at the end of the game. But, each chapter was pretty much self-contained in a general area. And that was somewhat nice. I mean, we were still at the time when computers couldn't necessarily hold a lot in storage space. I mean, even other games that were released in around the same time frame as Curse of Monkey Island that were exceptionally larger would load and unload parts of the game. Of course, nowadays that's not a problem. But I think maybe that might have been about because they thought it was a little bit too confusing to have every area accessible. And I think they pretty much did that with a bunch of the game, a lot of the Monkey Island games, because everything was self-contained in chapters. But, as you learn more of the franchise and all that, it expands on where everything takes place. And it's later explained how all these areas end up interconnected. And this game was full of humor. I loved the humor. I think that's part of what adds to the charm of the Monkey Island franchise. And I love that they brought back the insult sword fighting, because that has always been a fun part of Monkey Island. Learning how to do insult sword fighting, learning the insults, and then throwing them out there because some were very funny. And it was a fun game. I liked the style they went with it. It was delightful, it was entertaining, and it kept with the charm, seeing some old favorites like the Voodoo Lady, introducing new favorites like Murray. I can't help it. You can get excited seeing Murray pop up. And there's people who love Stan, and you just have to remember this guy Stan's he's a different sort of evil. I mean, he's always looking to make a buck, and he can be a shyster about it too. But like I said, this was a delightful entry in the series, and I loved it as I played through it, seeing the humor, and it has two difficulty levels. I played, I think, on the easier of the two difficulty levels. However, I think I was using a walkthrough that also included for the more difficult, so I'm trying to figure out the easy, even though I'm using the more difficult walkthrough. So, it was a fun game. And I recommend anyone who loves the Monkey Island franchise to get this one. You definitely get it for the enjoyment factor. And that's all I'm going to say about Curse of Monkey Island. I thank you for listening. If you still are, please subscribe to the channel. I enjoy that. And like I said, there'll be more retrospectives coming up. Until next time, take care and have fun all. Bye.